Chapter 1. The First Dream. Somewhere between sleep and waking, the hands were waiting. They curled around the railings, pale fingers pressing through the rusted iron, stretching toward him. Small hands, too small. The kind that should have been holding a skipping rope, a toy, a parent's reassuring grip. But here, they only reached for him. Desperate, cold, pleading. A wind howled across the bridge, and the world around him blurred, shifting from dream to nightmare. The smell of damp wood and iron filled his lungs. His pulse thundered in his ears. He could hear the train coming, the rhythmic thud of its weight on the old tracks, growing louder, faster, closer. Then came the screams, 3 voices thin and shrill. Not words, just terror. And then, impact, a sickening, wet, tearing sound. Blood. It sprayed across the old stone of the bridge, streaking the railings, pooling in the cracks of the worn timber sleepers. A mangled limb twisted unnaturally near the edge. The hands were gone now, swallowed by the violent rush of the train. But their presence remained. Edwin Holloway gasped awake. He sat bolt upright, drenched in sweat, his breath ragged. The dream had been so real, more vivid than it had ever been before. He knew that place, the bridge, the tracks, the smell of damp iron and death. And yet, he had never been there in his life. For 38 years he had suffered these dreams. Since childhood. Always the same, the hands, the screams, the blood. He had stopped telling people about them long ago. His mother had once brushed them off as just bad dreams. A doctor had suggested they were a manifestation of anxiety. But deep down, Edwin knew better. It was more than a nightmare. It was a memory of something he had never lived. Ravenscar, North Yorkshire, present day. The wind off the sea carried a bite, rolling over the moors and whipping against the stone buildings of Ravenscar. Edwin pulled his coat tighter as he walked through the village, passing the old slate-roofed cottages and the lonely remains of railway tracks that led nowhere. Ravenscar was a strange place. Once intended to be a thriving Victorian seaside resort, it had never quite happened. The hotels had never been built. The grand train station had been abandoned. Time had forgotten this place, and in its quiet neglect, it had become something else, a village full of ghosts. He had come here for work, a feature on rural communities and their fading traditions for a mid-tier publication, nothing to do with ghost stories or childhood nightmares. And yet, something about Ravenscar had stirred something in him the moment he arrived. The landscape was too familiar. The air smelled like iron. And tonight, as he sat in the Black Hart, the village's only pub, he heard something that made his stomach drop. A group of older men sat near the fire, drinking pints, speaking in low, quiet voices. The kind of conversation meant only for those who already knew the story. The hands, one muttered. People still see them. Edwin stiffened. Another man shook his head, his voice hoarse. That bridge should have been torn down. But they left it. And people still talk, still say they feel something when they cross it. Edwin's pint sat untouched in front of him. His fingers tightened around the glass. A third man exhaled, rubbing his jaw. Load of old nonsense if you ask me. That story's been around for 100 bloody years. Nothing ever proven. Proven? The first man scoffed. What's to prove? 3 kids were killed on that bridge. Everyone knows the story. Edwin felt his heartbeat pound against his ribs. 3. 3 children. The same number as in his dreams. The legend of the hand by the bridge. He listened, motionless, as the men recounted the village's oldest ghost story. It had happened over a century ago, in the Victorian era. 3 children, 2 boys, 1 girl, had been playing near the old railway bridge. The train had come too fast. They hadn't made it off the tracks in time. The steam engine had crushed them, their bodies smeared across the bridge, leaving a horrific scene that scarred Ravenscar forever. Ever since, people had spoken of hands reaching through the railings, ghostly fingers curling over the edges of the bridge. Some believed they were trying to save people from the same fate. Others whispered that they were trying to drag the living down with them. They say you can feel it, the first man murmured. If you walk across that bridge at night, you can feel them. Cold hands brushing your skin. The other man scoffed. Nonsense. But Edwin knew the story wasn't nonsense. because he had dreamed of it his entire life. Something didn't add up as the men continued talking. Edwin picked up something strange. Their versions of the story didn't match. One said the children had been playing a game when the train came. Another claimed they had been chasing a lost dog onto the tracks. One even suggested they had been running away from something. And then there was the strangest part, the way they spoke about the deaths. The usual tone of a ghost story is fear, a bit of dark fascination. But this sounded like guilt, like a story that had been told to hide something else. Edwin had spent years writing investigative pieces. He knew when people were hiding something. And as he sat there, listening to the whispers of the past, he realized something that chilled him to the bone. The ghost story of the hands wasn't the real mystery. The real mystery was what had actually happened to those children before they were laid on the tracks, and worse. Someone in Ravenscar still knew the truth.